above me, the azure sky.
Well, this video comes from a request from a YouTuber on my channel. This YouTuber wanted me to make a video about depression, fear, anxiety. Well, I will say this, from a spiritual perspective, some forms of mental illness have spiritual origins. Some can be triggered by events in our world, but when we're delving deeper into the spiritual anatomy of an individual, we'll realize that there's a lot of things transpiring subtly, things that we do not see. Now, I'm going to begin with depression. See, doctors have their way of dealing with depression. They prescribe medication. And some will say that the medication that's prescribed may have side effects. Well, I'm not here to argue which method is better. I'm just here to convey my understanding from a spiritual perspective. Depression sometimes doesn't have a physical origin. The origin from a spiritual perspective is the invasion of foreign entities. Sometimes you may go into a bad environment and you pick up bad energy, mauvais esprit. You step out in these environments. See, a lot of you people don't walk outside with protection. You think the protection is just for physical human beings. But there are some things that are beyond our range of vision. And when we go into these bad areas, we leave with that bad energy upon us. So now we don't feel it at the moment, but as our day goes on, we begin to have this gloom that comes over us. There's many people in this time that we're living in that experience a feeling of wanting to cry, a feeling of sadness that they can't even explain. There's nothing for them to be sad about, unfortunately, but the economy and things of those nature. But in general, the simplest things makes them want to cry. They don't know where this is coming from. I had one family member who went through a similar situation. They couldn't explain what it was, but then they did a cleansing, and immediately that feeling that was upon them immediately vanished. What we call a nettoyage. They did that, vanished. Nothing. Now, when we're talking about depression, depression can lead people to commit heinous acts. It can lead some people to even commit suicide. See, some people don't have this type of understanding, so they live with this feeling of, being a feeling of worthlessness. They begin to downplay themselves. They look in the mirror. They look at everything they're doing. They say, well, this is nothing anymore. This doesn't even mean anything. I haven't accomplished nothing. It's a belittlement of self. And this is all the bad energy that's giving you that motivation to think that way. You have to understand, sometimes it's not a person doing work on you. Some people be wondering, some people jump to the conclusion that somebody has done a spell on me, and that's why I'm feeling this way. And that's not even the case sometimes. Sometimes it could just be that you entered into a bad environment and you picked up bad energy. And now your view of the world begins to change. This is why you should be very careful with where you tread. If you're going to go into a harsh environment which you know has poverty and high crime, you should always have something to protect your spiritual body. Now, I want to move away from depression. I want to get into anxiety and panic attacks, Because in anxiety, I believe panic attacks fall into this category. This pretty much usually, from my experience, is when you agitate a spirit or you come into an environment where there is a malevolent force. When you're in this environment, and if you're in tune spiritually, and this has happened to some people who were under the influence. Some people, eyes are more open than others. So when they're open like this, they can sense things that are going on. And when there is a malevolent force in the environment that wants to do them harm, it comes as a feeling of impending doom. It comes as a feeling of, I don't know what it is, but I need to get out of here. From a medical standpoint, they say that it is the mind which has been, the mind makes an error and it sends the adrenaline flashing through the body and stuff like that. It basically is it's an error in the fight or flight system of the body, this fight or flight programming of the body. But this is the physical manifestation. It is a physical explanation for this. In cases like this, sometimes these can be foreign bodies which we have no control over. Sometimes it could be things that we do that trigger this. And I want to go back to depression for a quick second. Depression can also be brought upon by work, spiritual work that you do. By not doing it properly, it can send the spirit into a frenzy where it comes back and settles on you with this grief. So, coming back to the topic of anxiety and panic attacks, you have when this thing, when we're doing certain work or rituals, we can do something which pisses the spirit off, and that spirit's way of getting our attention is to shake us up. And when they get mad like that, we feel their presence of this impending doom. That's a spirit. Some people, they get so fucking scared, they start running. Instead of thinking, okay, what's going on here? You know, what should I do? What should I do to correct this? What's the problem? What's causing this? The first thing a person does is that they run out and they run out like a maniac because they don't know what their feeling is. And this is from a spiritual perspective. Now, I want to move on to fear because a person asked for me to speak on fear. Well, I'm going to give you a story. Well, like years ago, when I was young, dumb, and full of cum, I was shooting a firearm. And come to find out, I believe the rounds were bad or they were not for the firearm that I was shooting. So I was shooting the firearm, come to find out it exploded on me, jerked back, cracked my freaking skull. After that tragic situation, I had to go through PTSD, where I would relive that situation. When I would lay my head down on my pillow, I would think of the gun exploding on me. Later on in the years, I started going for like classes on firearms. And not only that, that's a little bit too far into the future. I want to take it back a little bit. And on the construction site, there's powder actuated tools, which is basically gunpowder tools. And I remember after my accident, I was afraid to pick those power actuated tools up and, nail into concrete because it's like a gun. A power actuated tool is pretty much a gun, but it's made to fasten material down to whatever, concrete or pavement, whatever, or wood. It's a power actuated gun where you hold it down, you compress it, and po! Just the experience before that with the firearm and then going to a construction site and having to use that tool, I was afraid to use it. A gun that I use previously to lay down steel tracks for steel framing. I've used that gun, hundreds of times. But after my accident, it got me shook up to the point where I was afraid to touch that gun. See, the fear is warranted at times, but fear can become a stumbling block. See, I've used that firearm numerous times, but because of my situation, it conditioned me to be afraid of it because I did not want to experience the pain that I experienced prior. But this here, we have to override it because now it was a program in my psyche, but I have to override the programming like a computer. Because I know that if I allow the fear to rule me, I will not eat. I will not progress in this business. So we can take from this experience or this example into our lives. Fear can hold us back. Fear can prevent us from doing what we need to do. When we have people constantly telling we can't do this, we can't do that, we can't do this, we can't do that, we're going to fail, this and that. If we believe that garbage, the opportunity may have been right around the door, but because we believe the lies, we believe the fear-mongering, we never made the initial step that we needed to better our lives. So with fear, there's justifiable fear and there's irrational fear. Is the fear justifiable? Is it warranted? If not, you have to override the programming. And as you begin to override the programming, just like me, when I had to override my programming, I picked up that power actuated gun, pop, 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 laid them tracks down, pop, 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 pop. As time went on, the fear left me. And I could pick up that gun and pop it, pop it, pop it, pop it, and lay those tracks down like nothing ever happened. Once you get into the move, it'll become second nature to you. I'm going to give you another example with me doing social media. When I started really popping in social media, I was working construction. I said to myself, I have to make a decision because people are calling me every single day, and me being at this 9 to 5, it's like I'm losing a lot of money being here. So I had to make the decision of whether or not I was going to do this full time, continue on social media full time, or stay at my dead end job. Fear said, don't do it because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. You don't know, where your next check's coming from. I took the risk. And look at me today. What I would make in a week, I can make that in a day or less, not even in a day, in a couple of minutes. So, with that said, I conclude this video.
I'm collapsing, breaking down, silently onto the ground. Above me, the azure